Hello, it's Rich from Thoughts on Arsenal, back with another video. I commented yesterday on some of Arsenal's incomings for this summer and gave my thoughts on that. So today I thought I'd talk about some of Arsenal's potential outgoings. Now, the majority of Arsenal's outgoings this summer are going to be players that have either been out on loan or on the fringes of the first team and not quite made it. I think we'll start with Pepe first. I mean, he has been a pretty poor signing. 70 million for Pepe. I think he signed 3 years ago. So that has not turned out to be a good signing at all. Now, how much money are we going to get for him? I'm not sure how long's left on his contract. I think he probably signed a 5-year contract. So I think that will give him 2 years left on his deal. I might be wrong. It might only be 1. If it is only 1, then that's going to affect the price completely. But I think it's probably 2. I mean, really, I think you'd ideally be looking to recoup as much of that 70 million as possible. But I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that because he has been so poor. I think for Pepe, I think we should be looking maybe to get maybe 20 million if we can. I'm not sure, however, who's going to be interested in him. He's not going to be going to any top clubs. I remember when we first signed Pepe that he had been linked with teams like Bayern Munich and teams like that, but obviously they wouldn't want him now. They've just signed Mane. And obviously he's not anywhere near good enough to join someone like Bayern Munich. So we're not going to be able to sell him to clubs with substantial amount of money, which is going to affect the transfer of Pepe even more. I mean, unless somebody like Newcastle came in for him, and I'm not sure they would. I could see him doing quite well for a team like Leicester. He seems to have that. I think he'd do well at a team like Leicester or perhaps West Ham. But I've not really seen anyone being linked with him yet. So he's going to be a bit of a problem. How much we'll get for him, I'm not sure. I think to be honest, I think it'll probably be somewhere closer to the 15, 18 million mark, which will be a big hit on the fee we spent for him. Now, that is something that is becoming a bit of a problem for Arsenal, signing players for, big amounts of money and then letting them go for very little, or sometimes actually paying them to go. And that's kind of got to stop, really, if we're going to get this club succeeding in the ways we want it to, not just recruiting well, but selling well. And then we'll have an indicator that our club is being run correctly. I do think we're going in the right direction, but I'm not convinced by our selling skills yet. We should be looking for the players we're looking to sell this summer. We should be trying to get somewhere close to 50 million, because another asset aside from Pepe should have been Lucas Torreira. We spent, I can't remember, somewhere like 25 million on Torreira. He's still fairly young, as is Pepe. They're at a good age. They're talented. I mean, they're both internationals. Torreira plays for Uruguay. He's still a good player. He's had a loan spell at Atletico Madrid. They didn't take him up on keeping him permanently. He seems to have done quite well at Fiorentina. Not been taken up there either because they've tried to lowball us. After we agreed a 15 million option last year, they decided to come in with a £7 million option this year, which we've completely ignored. So we're struggling to sell players that should be quite a valuable asset. Torreira and Pepe, they're not fantastic players. We've seen that at Arsenal. They're both limited, but they're both players that should be or could be of value to other teams. Okay, it's not worked out at Arsenal, but they should be of value to somebody, and who should be able to come in with a realistic bid. We should be able to sell Torreira and Pepe together, maybe for, maybe close to 35 million. I don't think that's unreasonable, given our outlay on them and given some of the prices that are being spent on other players around at the moment. Southampton have just spent 12 million on a 20-year-old goalkeeper from Man City, which is incredible. Yet we can't sell two players that are internationals in their mid-20s and who both aren't without ability. They're not fantastic players, as I say, but they can both do a job for teams. And yet we're probably going to end up selling them for, less than 20-year-olds at Man City or Liverpool who haven't done anything. And yet those clubs would sell them for vast amounts of money. And it's ridiculous. We need to learn to sell better, because a lot of the clubs we seem to be dealing with at the moment are Italian clubs who are quite notorious in how cheap they are. I think Chelsea are having a problem with Inter Milan in trying to get a decent deal out of them for Lukaku. So perhaps we just need to stop dealing with Italian clubs. Another player that I think is quite interesting is Reiss Nelson. I've heard he's done okay at Feyenoord out on loan. He got them. I think they got to the Conference League final. So I think he's made a decent impact. I don't think he necessarily started off as first choice, but from what I've heard, he kind of grew as the season went on there, and the manager started to like him more, which is good. I thought we might throw him into the squad this year, because we could do with another wide forward, and I thought he might be an option. He's young, he's English. He'd fit in with the other young English types we've got in that type of area of the midfield. But from what I can gather, I don't think that's very likely. Now, I think he's only got 1 year left on his deal. We should be looking to get a decent amount of money for Reiss Nelson. 15 million, really. But will we, if we're going to sell him? Probably not. We're probably going to sell him for about maybe 7 or 8 million. Because when you look at, somebody like Dominic Solanke, I think Liverpool sold him for about 20 million. Now, Reiss Nelson has done a lot more than Solanke done. He's had a good loan spell. He's contributed well at Arsenal. Played some Europa League games. He scored a goal against Liverpool in the only game we've beaten Liverpool when they've had Klopp. And that was just after they won the league a couple of years ago. So, he's done bits at Arsenal. So we should be looking to get a decent fee for somebody like that. Again, so if you add him to Torreira, you add him to Pepe, you add him to other players like Nelson, not Nelson, sorry, like Leno and Maitland-Niles. Again, 50 million really should be quite comfortable to achieve, and more. But I think we're probably going to end up selling them on the cheap again. I can see Pepe going for somewhere like 10 to 15 million even. I can see Torreira maybe going out on loan again and just winding his contract down. I can see Nelson getting sold on the cheap. That's probably 20 million between those three. Leno will probably only go for a few million, despite being a good goalkeeper. Maitland-Niles, I can see him probably hanging around this year, and us maybe just letting his contract wind down again. And we probably, for some decent assets there, we're probably only going to end up getting under 30 million, which would be ridiculous. But this club needs to start selling better. I think we made a good start, but we're recruiting younger, and we're signing players that are still going to have market value in a couple of years. But the fact is, we have got players now that should still have market value, and for some reason, we're still not making money off them. Maitland-Niles, for instance, okay, he might not have done as well at Roma as he might have liked, but he still went there. He was still part of a squad that won a European competition. You know, he's done a good job at right wing back and left wing back. You know, he fancies himself as a midfielder. So somebody should be willing to take a punt on Maitland-Niles. We should have sold him when Wolves come in for him, but we didn't. And what's going to end up happening now is we're going to end up selling him for either nothing or virtually nothing. Despite, again, him being at a very good age. He's in his mid-20s. He's got talent. He can play a bit. You know, and he's achieved things in his career. You know, he won the FA Cup. We should be looking to make a decent amount of money off him. Other clubs are selling players who have done absolutely nothing in the game. Okay, that goalkeeper I mentioned from Man City, he's played a few games for Ireland, apparently. But you still think, what, 12 million for a 20-year-old goalkeeper? That's a lot of money. And we're not getting anything for players that are only a few years older and have done a lot more. It's hugely frustrating, and that's something we're going to have to really, really improve. See, Leno's another good example. Apparently Fulham are in talks with him. That's been going on for a while now. Still no deal been agreed. Now, whether that's because Fulham are trying to get him on the cheap, which you can't blame these teams for trying to get our players on the cheap, because we're notorious for doing it. But we should be looking to get for Leno probably about 10 million, I'd say. Because he's a very good goalkeeper. And he's alright, he's only got 1 year left on his contract. But he's a very good goalkeeper. He's a good shot stopper. He's not the best with the ball at his feet, but he'll do a very good job for someone like Fulham. And he will save them points throughout the season, because he is a fantastic shot stopper. He makes some really, really good saves. I remember he made a very good save off Lukaku at the start of the season. Fantastic save. So all these players that I've mentioned are players that should be able to go for good amounts of money. It'll be interesting to see what we can get for them, because we're just notorious for selling players that should be valuable. Teams like Liverpool and Man City and Chelsea, alright, they probably wouldn't have signed these players in the first place, but if they did happen to have one or two of these players, they still managed to get money off them. And this is where we're going to have to improve as a club if we do want to get back to where we belong. We've made a good start with the incomings, I think, over the last year or two, but now we have to improve on our sales.